to satsang. So beautiful to be together with you all this evening. We start, as always, with a question that's come in advance from our beautiful family that joins us online, and then we will open it up to any questions that anyone here has. There's a microphone right here in the center, so feel free, if you have a question, to just come up to the microphone and share your name and share your question. There's no wrong questions in satsang. Sometimes people will say to me after satsang or later in the night or by message or by email or the next time I saw them, oh, I wanted to ask a question, but it was a silly question or it was a stupid question. And I always feel so badly because there's no such thing. If it's important and real for you, then it's exactly the right question. The only wrong types of questions are questions that are not real for you. Sometimes people ask things that are not really real for them, but just the sort of hear myself speak type of question, or but if it's something that's real for you, real in your heart, real in your mind, real that's keeping you from living in your highest, truest, deepest, most alive, most present self, however small it may seem, sometimes the smallest things. My yoga teacher, all throughout living in California, who's a brilliant master of the physical body, and as he would adjust people, tiny little adjustments, he would say, did you know that if you took a tiny little pebble and you stuck it in your shoe and you wore your shoe with that little pebble in it for a week, you'll throw your back out? That which seems like nothing. Little pebble, what's the big deal? It's okay, why bother stopping to walk and get the pebble out? Well, in not too much time, you'll actually end up creating real damage. And the same thing happens in our minds, in our hearts, in our spiritual practices. We have these things, and they grate on us. And we tell ourselves, oh, it's little, oh, it's stupid, oh, it's nothing. And as it keeps grating and grating and grating on you, it ends up really hurting you. So, yeah, this is really a very free and open, no judgment space for whatever it is that's deep and real for you that is keeping you from living that fullest life. So beginning, as I mentioned, with one that's come from our online audience. I understand the importance of patience on the spiritual path, but I struggle with wanting results now. How can I cultivate patience and trust in the timing of my spiritual progress? This is asked by Victor from Stockholm in Sweden. So Pujya Swamiji, my guru, always says, you've only got two choices in life. Either you learn patience or you become a patient. If you don't learn patience, you become a patient. You get sick. In the body, in the mind, in first the mind, then the body. The interesting aspect of the question is he wants patience for watching his own spiritual progress, and yet having patience, developing patience, in and of itself is spiritual progress. If you're more patient this week than you were last week, that itself is progress. It's not, oh God, give me the patience until I have some real spiritual progress. But it's, oh God, give me that patience, which A, in and of itself is real spiritual progress, and B, is that which enables the rest to unfold. One of my favorite stories is of this man who walks out of his house one day and he sees a cocoon, and the cocoon is hanging from a branch, and he sees the cocoon swinging back and forth and watches it for some time, and then he sees a little crack in the cocoon. And slowly he sees this butterfly start to poke its head out and kind of try to push its way through the cocoon. And being a nice guy and a compassionate guy, he hates to see the butterfly struggle. And he goes in his house and he gets a pair of little scissors. And he comes out and really gently, really carefully, he cuts the cocoon. And the butterfly comes out and goes flat on the ground. The man is shocked, and he picks up the butterfly and, in his hand and gently tries to make it fly. But the butterfly's wings are all wet and shriveled, and it never flies. And it turns out that the actual act of pushing itself through the crack in the cocoon is that which sends the matter, the fat, the physical energy from the inside, the caterpillar self, into the wings to become the butterfly self. And if the butterfly doesn't squeeze its way through, then all of that mass is not squeezed out into the wings, and then the wings can never fly. And so I think it's like that a lot with our own processes. It is the act of going through our process that gives us ultimately the result that we're looking for. As we struggle, as we fall and get up and fall and get up and fall and get up, as we forget and remember and forget and remember, and then remember a little bit more and remember for a little longer. It is that process that takes us where we're looking to go. So patience itself is a huge marker that you're progressing beautifully. And the other one that goes hand in hand with it is self-compassion and self-love. That kind of wherever you are. It's not, a 1,000-meter race of whoever comes through the finish line first wins. It's not about that. It's about who is the being who does this lap compared to the lap before. Sure, you could get to the finish line first, but if along the way you haven't become the being that you're meant to become, then you've lost. There was no point. Then you're just a rat in the rat race. You're still a rat. You began as a rat, you end as a rat. The point is that along the way, the very nature of who you are changes. And that's actually the point. So whenever you find yourself impatient, just ask yourself, okay, if I'm impatient, I'm going to become an impatient. So I need to develop that patience for myself. And it'll come slowly, slowly, but just keep reminding yourself there is no race. There is no race. Think of the butterfly in the cocoon. You're squeezing yourself into exactly that beautiful being you're meant to be. And any shortcut, any hack, it's going to get you out sooner, sure. But can you fly? That's the question. Yeah. Any questions that anyone here has? Yes. Yeah, you and then you. First her, and then you. And then we'll come here.
Thank you so much. My name is Taira. Hello, everyone. And this is a topic of my life. And sounds like a stupid question, like you say, but for me is something important. And I don't understand why for me it's so difficult to take decisions. Can be small decisions like go in the bakery and choose between this or this croissants, or can be choice more big for my present and my future. And I would like to know how I can do to be more connect maybe with myself in the moment, and how I can deal with the doubt.
Great. The struggle with making decisions, even little decisions, it arises out of fear that you're going to do the wrong thing. And what it means is that at some point in your life, you stop trusting yourself. It happens to many of us. The reasons are varied. Ultimately, the reasons don't even matter, but it may or it may not be interesting for you to look at the reasons for why, but somewhere along the way, in your childhood, in your growing up years, you learned that you were not trustworthy for yourself. That you were not to be trusted, that you don't make good decisions, that you're not intelligent. Maybe someone told you you're stupid, that you're never going to do the right thing. Maybe you were always compared negatively to another sibling or a cousin or a neighbor. And so you developed a complete lack of self-confidence. And the fear then arises, I'm going to make the wrong decision. And even something as little as you say, as like which croissant to eat in the bakery, somehow everything in life becomes a symbol of me getting it wrong. And then of course you make a decision and the mind goes, oh my God, I bet that was the wrong decision. I should have chosen the other thing. People who took that one are probably having a much nicer breakfast than I'm having. And you second guess yourself. And this is where I'd recommend a several-pronged approach. First of all, you're very young. And I mention this because this is a really good age to start to understand yourself. Once you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, going back and kind of looking at your childhood, it gets old. It gets old. There's a point that's like, you know what, just let it go and move on. But at your age, it's a really beautiful age to understand why you are the way you are, and to start to kind of put in place pieces, like a jigsaw puzzle, of, oh, okay, this thing, and none of it is bad. Nobody woke up in the morning and decided that they were going to give you a complex. Nobody decided they were going to make you feel insecure or not valuable. But it happened. And it's helpful to know, oh yeah, I remember. My mom, my dad, they would always make every decision for me. Like we'd go to a restaurant, I wasn't even allowed to order for myself. They would order for me. Nobody ever gave me the freedom. Nobody ever trusted me. Nobody ever gave me that that freedom to make my own decisions. I must have thought they didn't trust me. Or whatever your story is, that was just one example out of hundreds of different possibilities of why it is that at this age, you don't trust yourself. But it's interesting to look at and to understand. Second piece becomes recognizing that all of that which you internalized, I'm not trustworthy, I'm not smart enough to make a good decision, I make messes all the time, all of that it's not true. That it's just absolutely not true. However you develop that belief, whoever said what or treated you however or whatever it may have been, it is an absolute untruth. You can't rewind history. You can't redo your childhoods. None of us can. This comes up all the time for us. But it's one of the most important lessons to learn in life. Can't rewind. You can only move forward. So you say, okay, at this moment, I realize I've got this complex. It is not true. And every time the voice in your head comes up with, you're going to make the wrong decision, just tell it, no, I won't. Make a decision. Set a stopwatch. Phones have stopwatches. Give yourself 30 seconds to choose the croissant. The minute the buzzer goes, you get nothing, you got to walk out. If you don't decide in 30 seconds, no croissants for breakfast. Just train yourself.
Okay.
Train yourself like that. Now, I'm not suggesting that all of life's decisions should be made on a stopwatch of 30 seconds. Some decisions absolutely require deeper thought. But train yourself on the little things that even if it turns out you would have actually enjoyed the chocolate one more, it's not the end of the world. You can eat the chocolate one tomorrow instead. But get yourself in a pattern and a habit of just making quick decisions. Check in, what does it feel like? Go with it. Check in, what does it feel like? Go with it. Get yourself in that habit. And then, of course, for the bigger decisions, take time. But recognize that you are predisposed to not trusting yourself. And so it would be really helpful to have a friend, a mentor, someone you do trust, to talk through these decisions with. I remember when I was 25, and I had been in India for the first several months, and then I came back to America. And I was sitting with a woman who played many roles in my life. She was my mentor, she was my best friend, she had begun as my therapist, but she was just kind of my everything at that time in my life and for many years. And I was talking to her and I said, I can't decide. Part of me really wants to go back to India. I know I'm supposed to be there. And yet, everyone I know is telling me, you're crazy, first get yourself established, do all of these things. And I just talked it through. She was silent. And I talked through how I knew I was meant to be in India. And how angry I was at all of these stupid people who were trying to make me not listen to myself. And she listened, and after listening, she looked at me and she said, it seems to me that you've already made a decision. She said, you know what the right decision is. She said, you know that you need to go back to India. She said, I'm not telling you. You've just told me. I'm just reflecting back exactly what you've told me. You know you need to go to India. She said, it seems to me that really that decision has been made. And now the only decision you need to make is whether you're going to spend the next 6 weeks, because I had 6 weeks left of my semester, whether you're going to spend the next 6 weeks killing yourself and driving yourself crazy over pretending to make a decision that actually you've already made in your mind, or whether you're going to spend the next 6 weeks getting yourself ready to move to India. She said, that's the only real decision that you have. And I share this with you because having someone who you trust, who's not trying to force their agenda on you, someone you trust, you respect them, they know you, they love you, to talk about the big decisions with. Don't call them and ask them which croissant to buy. But the big decisions that have ramifications throughout your life. And just allow them to serve as a reflection of what you already know to be true, but what you are afraid to acknowledge. That's what we have mentors for. It's what we have guides for. It's what we have beautiful friends for, or beloved family members we can trust for. It's why when we're young we need that. So do both of these things. Little decisions, 30 seconds stopwatch. Big decisions, bounce them off of someone who knows you and loves you, so that you can hear your own intuition. And what you'll discover is you do know what to do. You're just afraid of acknowledging it. And you just sometimes need someone to give you that little kick in the rear end to move ahead with what your heart is already telling you to do.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Namaste, Guru Ma. I want to ask from Dad.
Can you speak a little bit louder?
I want to ask from your Dad.
Okay.
As God
And into the microphone, so everybody can hear you.
As God said that there is no need to complete the formalities for a puja, but still, why we still complete all the formalities? As many stories that if we just remember God in our mind, God is happy, and but still we fulfill all the veneration and the formalities.
Okay, let me stay there. I just want to confirm that I've understood your question properly. You're asking if we love God,
Yes.
and God wants us to love Him, is that enough, or do we still have to fulfill all of the formalities of our pujas and rituals?
Yes.
Is that your question?
Yes.
I got it right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you want to make sure. You want to answer exactly the question that you've asked. Okay. The entire purpose of puja is to remind us to love God. If you already love God, you don't have to do puja. But the problem happens, and you're a little bit too young to know this, so you can look around to the older people in the room as I share this, as they, I assume, are going to nod in agreement, that when you have a relationship with someone, and you first fall in love, you remember that you're in love every minute of every day. You don't need to bring flowers, you don't need to do anything, because just all day long, all you are is thinking about that person, being in love. Everything you do, you are thinking about them, their name is on your lips, in your heart, all the time. And the love is very beautiful. As years go by, it's not that we forget that we're in love, but that it's that we start to get busy in life. We start to kind of forget the importance of expressing how much we love. And so you end up in relationships that are not nearly as powerful, as connected, as juicy, as wonderful as they could be, Because it's like, yeah, I love you. Like, why do I have to say it all the time? Okay, I forgot your birthday, I'm sorry, but anyway, you know I love you. Or, all right, so I never come home and spend time with you, but anyway, you know I love you. Like, see, if you turn around, you'll see everybody going like this. This is what happens. It happens in life. It's normal. We get busy. We know that we should spend time with each other, but at the end of the day, after we've had dinner, what do? We turn on the TV, or we scroll on our phones, or we read a book, or we talk to someone, or we see our WhatsApps, instead of spending that time together. Mornings we get up, before we have to go about our day, we know that we should have some time together, but instead we're like, oh, what's happening on my phone? Or we run off to the gym. And these things are all fine. There's nothing wrong. The gym is great. Books are great. TV is fine. Phone is fine. The problem is that we are forgetting to give time to each other. And that's why we make sure to celebrate birthdays and anniversaries. We make sure to have date night. We make sure to have these things to remind us how much we love each other. Every couple does it differently. Every family does it differently. We make sure maybe to have dinner together, maybe every night, maybe Sunday brunch, whatever it might be. But we know that if we don't make special time, it's never going to happen. And the same thing is true with our relationship with God. We love God very much. Beautiful. But as you get older, you're going to get busy. Your mind starts to get filled with so much nonsense. And what happens is you forget that you love God. If someone asks you, you'll say, oh, yeah, I love God. But during the course of your day, do you remember God? Do you think about God? Do you say thank you to God? Does God ever come into your mind? And so what our puja does is it's a way of making us stop in the middle of the day, in the morning, in the evening. See, this is your time with God. This is the time to remember that you love God. So that's what it's for. If you're walking around all day long loving God, no need to do puja. If you're thinking about God all day long, whatever you do, you don't need to do puja. But if you find that at the end of the day you realize you haven't thought about God at all, and when you sit to meditate, to spend your few minutes with God, suddenly all you can think about is work and your shopping lists and your friends, that you need some puja. It means you need to dedicate some time of the day just to think about God. Okay? Good. Yes.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji, so much for this wonderful session. Last time, you might remember or maybe not, I came Rishikesh with a suicidal thought, but luckily I got this satsang. I sat here, I asked one question, I got my answer, and up to some extent it is working. So the question is different from that. We know whatever we are facing in this birth is a result of prarabdha, that is our last birth or no, last life. Can there be any way so that this cycle of taking birth and dying, with all of, can it be stopped? And if no, again a question, how much, like as a normal ordinary person, how, not being a yogi or we all work and we are a student or something, is it possible that at least our next birth should be a very fresh and a good one, and whatever we can face, we will face in this life, and let us stop, or at least stop the cycle of taking birth and all.
Yeah. So he said, we know that this birth, where we are now, is due to our past births. And then he asked a two-part question. He said, first question is there a way to stop this cycle? To stop this cycle of birth and death? And if there's not, can I just make next life much better? But if there is, then ideally, can we stop the cycle entirely? So, the Bhagavad Gita is the best answer to this that I have found. It's words that are spoken not to a Vedantic scholar, but that are spoken to a warrior, a householder warrior, Arjun. So the teachings are really appropriate and applicable for all of us. And what Bhagavan Krishna told him is, because Arjun went through this, said, forget it, I'm not going to fight, I don't want the bad karma, then I'm going to have a bad next birth or bad later this birth. And what Bhagavan Krishna explained to him is, you're going to have to keep coming back to enjoy or suffer the fruits of what you do, whether they're bitter, whether they're sweet. Lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, until you surrender entirely to me and you recognize that you are not the doer of any of those actions. As long as there is a sense of doership, I'm the one who did this. A lot of us are really ready to renounce doership of our wrong actions, right? We say it all the time. Oh, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. We renounce doership right away. Oh, the person who lied to you, that wasn't me. The person who yelled at you, that wasn't me. The person who cheated on my husband, that wasn't me. But the good stuff? No, that was me. Like, I meditate 3 hours a day. That's me, right? We take all the credit for that. I'm the one. I fed thousands of people. Didn't you see me? I'm the one. All day long I was feeding them. I did this. I did that. So, but he said you have to renounce the doership of it all. Realize you are not the doer. I am the doer. Bhagavan Krishna, I am the doer. The divine is the doer. You are the instrument through which it is happening. There's a beautiful shloka he gives us. He says, Yat karoshi yadashnasi yajjahoshi dadasiyat yat tapasya se konteya tat kurushwa madarpanam. Just surrender it all to me, whatever you do. Even your sadhana, your yagna, your tapas, your seva, all of that even. You're not even the one who meditates. You're not even the one who does yagna. You're not the one who does tapas. You're not any of that. Just surrender it all to me. So that is the only key that we've been given to actually break the cycle of birth and death, is that total surrender. If you look at it from a more Vedantic viewpoint, less of a bhakti viewpoint, more of a Vedantic philosophy, it's an awareness rather than a surrender to God, rather than a surrender to Krishna. It is a simple awareness that I am not the one who is doing, nor am I the one having the impulse to do. I'm not the desire. I'm not the one having the desire. I'm not the action that arises out of it. All of that is happening in Maya. I am just the awareness. So you can do it either way, depending on whether you have a more bhakti-filled propensity, surrender to Bhagavan Krishna, surrender to the divine, or whether you are more inclined on an Advaita, non-dual, philosophical path in which it's just I am the light of awareness. And sometimes that light shines on a karmic journey that is experiencing anger. Sometimes it shines on a karmic journey that is experiencing peace. But I am the light that shines. I am none of the experience. I'm just the light that illuminates it. So either way, that awareness is what will set you free. Whether the awareness that I surrender it all, okay, God, or the awareness that this isn't me anyway. Either way. But that's the only option. Otherwise, until you get there, do good things. Help others. Be honest, be kind, be generous. Follow Dharma. Then even if you do take birth again, it'll be pleasant, as we say. You're still stuck, but at least you're stuck in a golden cage with, nice food, rather than being stuck in an iron cage with bad food. So I'd say, make sure that you're living according to Dharma, doing good things, thinking good thoughts. But along the way, whenever you remember, as much as you can, just remember, surrender, surrender, surrender. Surrender to, I'm not the doer, I'm not the doer. So then it's a win-win situation. Either way, you're in good shape. Wonderful. Of course, of course, of course. Have a beautiful evening. I saw some hands go up in the back. We'll start with your questions tomorrow. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your evening or day. And I look so forward to being together with you tomorrow. And so much love to you all.